days. Today will start a little slower. I have all these labs. This is the rest of your labs for the class, plus the anti-skid lab. Okay, anti-skid lab you will do when we do the beach jet. Each day you'll get, your group will knock out a lab. Okay. All right, and then we'll have 5 rotations, so it keeps us really busy. For example, a group will be on the 210 today. That group will go out, you'll jack the 210, you'll run the landing gear, and then you will check the 210 retraction to see if it's in or out of limits with the special gauges, okay? All right, pretty nifty. They make special gauges. We bought them last year. They're ridiculously expensive. They're like $1,500. So don't drop them. You just literally stick them in there to see if it's rigged right or not, and then check to make sure. Because it's a hydraulic gear on the 210 that it actually locks the gear up position. There'll be a group on, you'll be a group on the beach jet, group on Chevy dampeners, group on the the PA-28 Aero, and then a group on the Cessna 182 with Hannah doing wheel alignment. Okay? So it'll be busy every single day. You'll have something to do. After school, I don't want you. You can catch up on previous ones, but don't jump ahead of the other group, okay? The only one I'll let you jump ahead on is the shimmy damper, okay? In your downtime, you should be studying for your writtens, okay? Your month out, knock out your writtens. If you're ready to go on your written, go ahead and go to orals. My goal, my prayer is that every one of you would be ready to test. All right. So what?
We still can't schedule it. We just say schedule it.
I have to look at the calendar. You're not quite ready. This week, I think they'll let you start. I'll have to ask her. All right. Okay. Before I run this, what aircraft is this? Oh, bummer. I already gave it away. All right. How many of you have ever seen a crosswind landing gear? You may have ever seen a crosswind landing gear. Okay, I've worked on a few of them. They are brutally difficult. Okay. Okay, this is our normal axle. Okay, normal axle on a Cessna. Right here, you have a normal axle. On a crosswind landing gear, you have a pivot point right here, and the gear will move just like this. Anybody see a problem with that? Any pilots? Any issues with that? Okay, what happens if we come in and we're just like this? Okay, and the idea is when you come down for a landing, it's supposed to straighten as you go down the runway. Okay, you can already see how it's kind of towing in. Okay, this is not a real long video here, pretty short.
Gotta keep the bloodline. There's one extra seat.
So if you have an opportunity to work on one set, the 195. 195 has a radial.
Gotta keep the bloodline. There's one extra seat.
Okay, so when you come in for landing, it was made that no matter basically the angle of your tail, I don't mean like you can't be like this, but if your tail was here, you could come in for landing and you could run it down the middle of the runway if the wind was this direction. Crosswind landing gear would allow you to hit really high crosswind. So here's the runway and the wind's coming across this way. It would allow you to land straighter as you're going down. Okay, you kind of align your wheels down the runway. Okay, so you could have the aircraft literally going this way with the tail pointed this way. So typically, if you have a wind from this direction and you come in a 172, you're dropping your left wing, right rudder, right rudder. Oh, I guess your left. Yeah, left wing down, and your right rudder in as you're coming in, okay? Versus 195, you could literally, what they call crab into the wind, or this way, you crab into the wind, and it'll allow you to pull your mains down, okay? What was hilarious is I could never see out of the nose of these.
Back to the bloodline. There's one extra seat. Chestnut, amber white.
What's the one on the right? I couldn't tell. What? Yeah, I couldn't.
Back to the bloodline.
All right, gear with struts. We've already talked about struts. What are we talking about right here? What are these? Torque links. Are torque links all torqued? No. Are they torqued? The bolts are torqued? No. They need to be able to move. But the problem is if they're too loose, what do we get? A shimmy. Okay? So we have spacers. Now, some of you realize this when you were putting yours together. You would pull it off and you would have these little bitty shims fall out onto the ground. Those shims are alignments. One here, or it may have two on one side and none on the other. And based on your alignment of the nose tire or the mains, you could align your torque link. This is a nose because it has a shimmy dampener attached. You don't have those on mains. But you could put your shims on either side to align the tire, okay? You don't just put the shims, well, this side had a shim, so I'm going to add a shim to this side. That's not how it works. It's based on the alignment of the tire, okay? So you'd place a washer here, you could place a washer here, you could place a washer here to be able to turn it. Piper, you gentlemen had the PA-28, right? Geese and Mike and Matthew and Israel, right? You had the larger one. You could get larger shims on the middle of that torque link and it would turn it this way or this way to alignment, okay? For tubular spring, 210 would have this type, okay? Now, this is where it gets a little hairy. You don't just add a shim, a real thin shim like you do on a Piper. Pipers have smaller increments to adjust toe in or toe out. I'll show you a picture of what toe in, toe out is. But Piper has a smaller increment. Cessna does not. These are Cessna shims, okay? And this is where it gets a little crazy. If you look at this shim, it's super thick here. So I can put the shim like this, okay, which is going to tow me in. But there's a range because you can't just take the shim to the grinder and grind it down, buy too thick of a shim and grind it down like we would do to a tractor, right? Can't just grind it down and say, yep, now it's good to go, okay? Can't do that. So they give you a range that says, yeah, it's more or less close enough. The nice thing is we're not on the ground all the time. Okay, so I'll pass these around. You can look at them. Please don't mix these up. Okay, there's all these different shims, and you can see some different thicknesses. So if you get one, you could flip it this way, and it'll tow it out. If you need it to camber in, camber out, then you flip it this way. Well, the problem is it's tapered, so you're still going to get a little bit, you'll still be a little bit out. It won't be perfect on a Cessna, okay? It just won't be. So they'll give you a range. Those of you on the 182 today and this week, and when we get back from break, realize that it will not be perfect if you're going to measure it and it says what what size shim should you put in there? Okay, well, you can only get a small range, it won't be perfect. Okay, make sense? Okay, as you look at these, you'll see it, just hold it up and look at it. One of these is super obvious how thick it is. One side's paper thin and one side's super thick. Okay. Supposed to start down there, sorry. Go back. Any questions on, so this is for tubular and spring steel like a 172 if it was a flat one. Because at the bottom you'd still have a place that you would shim it, okay? But it won't be perfect. Everybody understand that? It'll be close, but it won't be perfect. Any questions? Okay, Aircraft Spruce sells those little shims. They're pretty common. Here's a picture of one that you would find in the 172 or 182 manual, and it says take it off. What is this for right here? Anybody remember? What is this for? You've already gotten well acquainted with them. Okay, no, that's not necessarily the brake. The brake goes up here. What is this for? Another guess? It covers the tire, makes it super easy to add air to it. Anybody know what they're called? Wheel pant or fairings. Good. So this is where your fairing would mount, okay? So testimony, I have added shims before and forgot to put that plate back on. And you get done torquing it up and it's like, oh, crap. Okay? So don't forget that little plate. But your shim goes right here on the leg. Any questions? Everybody okay? All right, toe in, toe out. Toe in, toe out. All right, so theoretically you want it perfectly aligned, just like your car. When you take your hands off the wheel, what do you want your car to be able to do? Go straight. It doesn't happen in Michigan, but if you're going down the road and you let off your hands off the steering wheel, it's supposed to go straight. Now, those of you in an airplane, you're not driving with your, unless you're in a, trivia, useless trivia question. Unless you're in a air coupe, scare coupes. Scare coupes you could do with your, they were connected, rudder pedals were connected up here. We don't call them air coupes, they were more scare coupes. So, logically you want it to go down the runway, but that's not how it works. We have something called friction drag. Okay, friction drag. So it begins, and this is an extreme. Please don't align an aircraft like this or you will be shortly employed, okay? So, but this is for visual purposes, where you align it slightly towed in. Towed in. That way, when you're going down the runway at Mach speed, 95 miles an hour, whatever, it will slightly pull the tires out as you're going down the road, okay? Your car does the same thing. Your car's aligned slightly toe in on the front. Now, can you look at it and say, yep, I can see it? No, not normally. But if you were to measure it, you would see that your tire on your car is slightly towed in. That way, as you're going down the runway, it pulls back on those tires. That way, the goal is to have it straight. Now, what's the problem here? If it's towed out. Yeah, gets really squirrely, and it's really going to put a significant stress right here underneath where the pilot is on the attachment points. It's going to be pulling on those bushings. All right? The LLC has had to change several bushings on some trainer planes this year, specifically on the trunnions, the arrows, the hard ones, because it seems like they were either aligned perfectly, and then when they're landing, what happens? Pulling them out, wearing the bushings out, towing out. Okay. All right, so it's going to give you a wheel alignment. You have flat spring. Those of you who are going to the manual, this is what it looks like. It's so clear, okay? So crystal clear. Not. All right, so wheel alignment. It's going to camber. What is camber? That's based on the top, in or out. Okay? And then toe in is the front of the tire, towing in towards the engine or out. We're talking about a single engine, I know. 0 to 0.06. Okay? And that's going to be towing in. So it can be perfectly aligned or slightly in. Okay? 0.06 inches. Okay? Tubular spring, and you have 0.18, 2 degrees or 4 degrees in. Right? It's kind of what it looks like in the older manual. Little zoom in for those in the back. Yes, sir, Matthew?
So that 0.06 inches, is that the difference between front and back tires?
Correct. Yep. Yep. And so what you'll do is you'll have it on grease plates. The tires, you'll roll the airplane up onto grease plates. The grease plates are like super thin. Okay? And then on the side of the wheel, because that's the flattest spot, you can get something across the side of the wheel or on the side of the tires, depending if you have Randall's favorite bush tires, right? If you make wide bush tires, they'll kind of be pooching out on the sides. So you can put an alignment dead across the center of the tire right here. Let's see if I can show you one. Yeah, perfect. So this one's kind of easy because you could put it on the side of the wheel like this. Okay? But if it's a bush tire, it'll come out here. Somewhere in the center, I'll measure up halfway across the wheel, and I'll put an alignment right here. And from the back to the front, I want it 0.06 inches towed in, just slightly in or dead zero. If I draw a straight line out, okay? Yes, sir.
Speaking of bush tires, what if you don't have the original tires that airplane can move?
Great. You still need to have it 0.06 so you can draw a straight line out.
Bigger tire, you still need that. It's gonna be, but it's gonna be a different angle than your other small tire.
Well, if you bought an STC, it should tell you on that one. Yeah, for sure.
Is the camber this way or this way?
Camber, I have another picture in just a moment, but it is like this or like this. That's extreme, but
Well, for the, it's 3 degrees or 5, so is it outward or instead of what?
I'll show you a visual in just one sec. It'll be mucho clearer. Okay. Now on Piper did not. Once again, Piper made it easy to adjust but difficult to measure. They do it in minutes. Minutes. Everybody's so excited. So you're going to do it at 15 minutes. Well, what is 15 minutes? We already know, some of you are smiling. What's 15 minutes? No. A quarter of a degree. Why didn't they say a quarter of a degree? Ask Clayton Bradley if you need to know why. Okay? All right. So they will measure it in minutes. They'll say 1 degree and 15 minutes. So what you can do is you could take a string off the center point of the tire and go straight out towards Shane's head. Okay? All right? And then measure from the nose tire over to that degree point. Does anybody see a problem yet? Oh, no. What if the nose tire was not straight? Now we got an issue. No, don't beat the nose one time. So you want to make sure the nose is about as straight as possible. Even some Cessna will say block the rudder pedals with a piece of wood. Now I like when you do that, except it's matte. And let me tell you why this class. It's because the student that blocks them forgets that they blocked them, and then the next group comes and moves it and then bends the rudder because the pedals are blocked. So figure out a way, if you're going to block the pedals, to put a sign that says, here's your sign, unblock the pedals. before you turn it over to the next group. You're smiling, but I'm serious. Please don't bend it because of it. Okay? All right. Toe in, toe out, and then I'll give you your visual. Okay? Oh, let me just give you this one first. Okay? So we have a positive camber and we have a negative camber. Okay? If we're positive, so Randall takes off at his 140. What does his tires do immediately on his main? Comes in. Okay? 182, or 180 or a 185 looks like it comes way in. Why is that? It's a heavier aircraft with longer spring steel. Don't be alarmed. I've had aircraft owners be like, man, it comes so far in, it comes in like a foot. Yeah, it's because the aircraft's heavy. And so it's spring steel, so it will spring out as you land. Okay? And it's to take that buffer or impact when you land. Now, what do we have here? Anybody remember what this is? A bubble protractor. The bubble protractor should be done in the center from top to bottom. Okay? We have a positive camber. We have a negative camber. Okay? Why should it not be done up here on the front of the tire? Yeah. Usually if you get the center point, it's a good indication in relation to the tubular spring steel where you're at, okay? Out here it can be slightly out or it can be towed in, give you a slightly different reading. So you want to be in line with the axle when you put your bubble protractor on there. The school has several bubble protractors in there, okay? Make sure the bubble is small, otherwise if it has a big bubble, it means it's got air in there, okay? It doesn't align real well. Okay. Here is toe in, toe out. I really like to use a spar from a wooden aircraft because typically those are very straight because they've been dried, you know, ages ago. Okay, I don't like to go, sorry, no offense David and Caleb and whoever else works, Kurt, whoever else works at Menards, and go and buy the knockoff Menards 2x4s, okay? They're not straight at all. And so when you put those across there, it's like, man, so I really like a thin piece. If you can find a piece of flat bar steel, great. But if not, get the straightest piece of either steel or wood that you can find to put it all the way across your main tires from one side to the other. Okay? You could do a string. I've done some crazy stuff. If you can do a string, I've done that on a car before. You know, and in countries, you're going to have to align your own tires, potentially. Okay? So you could put a string across the middle of it. Why do we want to go across the middle and not the bottom? Go ahead. Because I could be a little bit off on even my alignment. My camber at the bottom would throw off my top. So you want to be in line with the axles. Okay? This one's slightly under because it has a dust cover. That's fine. But my point is you don't want to be on the bottom here. Okay? All right. Some aircraft will say pull forward 8 feet or 10 feet. Pull it straight and then put onto the grease plates. That's just to make sure your tires are normally aligned before you're measuring it. They don't want you pushing it back into the hanger and then measuring it. All right. I got Randall something special. Are you ready, buddy? Here you go. All right, hey, and if you can't understand what he's saying, you'll have to ask David. Job's not here to interpret, okay? All right.
Hello, I'm Cody Dixon, flight line mechanic here at Air Tractor. Today we're going to show you how to measure your main wheel alignment on your airplane. The need for main wheel alignment is indicated by a number of subjective observations. The first probable sign of the need for alignment is excessive tire wear or feathering of the tread beads. Dog tracking, or the tendency of the airplane to crab during taxi and roll out after landing, is another sign of misalignment. Also, a visual observation of both wheels for symmetry of angle with respect to the airplane's center line when viewed from the front may show a need for alignment. The tools we're going to need are blocks, cans, jack stands, a long straight edge, a measuring device, a protractor, and a 24-inch carpenter square. To check your alignment, the airplane needs to be full of fuel but with an empty hopper. Taxi or tow your airplane a short distance in a straight line to allow the gear legs to assume their natural position. This should be done on a flat, smooth surface, preferably on a paved surface. Toe in is measured by placing a straight edge across the front of the tires approximately at axle height. You can use anything that is readily available to hold your straight edge up, blocks, cans, or both. Today we're going to use jack stands. A 24-inch carpenter square is placed against the straight edge and the outside surface of the tire. Be sure to hold it level with the ground at axle height. Now measure the gap between the tire and square. The tire should be square or have up to 1/16 inch toe in at the highest point of the tire sidewall. Camber is measured by placing a protractor on the vertical axis of the wheel center. Camber at the highest point of the tire sidewall.
Oh, will you stop for a second? Man. All right. Jordan. If this was toe in, where would his gap be? If this was toe in, where would his gap be measured? He's measuring right here and right here. And he's measuring it in relation to his square tubing. Where's the gap if it's towed in? Is the gap? Yes, the gap would be here. He should measure a gap here. Should hit off the back and come straight out here if it's towed in on this one. Okay? Everybody agree? Towed in, it should be squared and then off the back of the tire. So it's going to measure in right here. Okay? Am I good? Right. I like jack stands. Really, really nice. Jack stands work out real well. Something else, if you're doing the 172s, you can get one of those 1-gallon hydraulic cans. Those are super nice, about the same height too. Any of those work really, really well.
Ryan, he's just using feeler gauges for that gap.
No. You may see what he's doing. What's he using? Machinist scale. His steel rule. Steel rule.
Square or have up to 1/16 inch toe in at the highest point of the tire sidewall. Camber is measured by placing a protractor on the vertical axis of the wheel center. Camber should read 1 to 2 degrees. Repeat these steps for the opposite side. If your airplane fails this check and your operation isn't equipped to hoist the airplane, you will need to take it to an air tractor dealer or authorized service center to have your main wheel alignment adjusted. This concludes our video on how to check your main wheel alignment. If you have any
No, 1/16 on the air tractor. I was shooting this video and then I got on here and I was like, man, this is way quicker and way, way clearer than I could be. And plus you don't have to listen to my own voice. And actually I already had this before Randall. 2 years ago I had another guy who was a big crop dusting guy. So. All right, let me go back a little bit. All right, so we have, instead of using a bubble protractor across here, you can use the carpenter square, and then we have this gauge as well. The problem is I need this in my next class, so if you drop it, it does me no good, and it does your classmates no good. So, you're more than welcome to use it. It'll tell you angles in or out. You have to zero it before you put it on it. Okay?
So do we line that up on the wheel and then that tool will tell us how far out there?
Well, yes, you align it with the ground
So we're still
and,
looking for
and zero it and then put it on the side of the tire and it will tell you in or out, positive or negative. You have to have a 0 point before you put it on the tire. Okay. Now, if you use a bubble simple. We're not gonna do pipers right off the bat. We're gonna do simple Cessna 182 for our alignment, just to give you a general idea how to make alignment. An alignment is not something that you do all the time, but what would be the reasons for doing alignment? Tires are wearing out. Now, go back earlier in the video, and we'll ask the air tractor man back here, what would he do in this scenario? How would you rotate them?
You flip it around, you probably flip sides too.
Okay, so he'd deflate the tire. It's good practice. And then he'd take the wheel and tire off, and then rotate to make this outboard of the other side. So he'd take it all the way off and put it on the outboard side of the wheel, but then even change sides. Is that legal? Yeah, you betcha. Okay, it's not got any cord showing through it. There's no fabric showing here. He can go ahead and rotate it, and then he's got an extra several more landings out of it, depending on how smooth he is. Okay? Yes.
Is it, the owner's responsibility then to bring those back in, like, to notice the wear on this? Like,
Well, they're coming to you
yeah.
because something's wrong on the tire.
Yeah, well, so we rotate them, it extends the life of that tire, but it affects the owner pretty badly. Like, I guess what I'm asking is.
Yep, that's right.
We would tell them, like, oh, bring it back in as for, no,
Because if it sits out on the runway, who cares?
okay.
But when they go out to fly, who deems it suitable for flight and landing? We don't oftentimes include landing, but who deems that on their inspection? The pilot, owner operator. You're laughing because oftentimes we just say flying, but we don't think about landing. Landing is necessary.
I get a little confused, I guess, on, like, maintenance items such as, like, tires that have, like, a normal wear life. Like, cause we're riding, okay, we, like, change the tires, but what if, like, over the course of time, like, a tire,
Dry rots? Fine, if they have to come in, how many times are they required to come in every year if they're gonna fly that airplane? Once a year. When it comes in, you say, it's dry rotted, it's gotta be changed.
yeah, if it's, we'll probably, but, like, okay, so let's say, brings it into us, and then we, change the tire, whatever. And then the owner decides to go to a different shop, and they don't, like, they miss the dry rot, and then something bad happens.
Then it goes back on the last shop that touched it.
But, like, I don't really understand why that would be, because it's like, the tire was good, it's brand new, but then if the pilot decides to, like, never go back to that shop,
Fine.
then why would it be still that mechanic's fault if it's just normal?
It's not.
Okay.
If you put a tire on and you sign it off and it's brand new,
Yeah.
they go out and fly it, or they leave it sitting out here on the tarmac and then they decide to go fly it, and they crash, is that your fault?
As long as you did everything correct, I wouldn't take it.
That's right.
Okay.
It's not on you. Did it have enough air? Well, the only person that's gonna know that is who? The owner-operator of the aircraft. You don't know if it had enough air. It sat outside. Man, I did that tire 6 months ago.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me it sat in Michigan for 6 months and you deemed it airworthy? You didn't put any air in it? It sat out on the tarmac, enjoyed all the snow and ice, and you decided to go fly it? No, you're the idiot, not me. And I think the FAA would say that. They were like, no, you are the one that deemed it. You didn't have a mechanic check it out.
And in that case, FAA's gonna do an investigation, number one thing they're looking for is, was there pilot error? That's the majority of their incidents. And after that, it's gonna be faulty maintenance, so. You might be a suspect, but that doesn't mean that you're involved.
That's right. Plus, in that situation, highly improbable, unless the axle came off. Oh. Well, the axle came off, that's on you.
Sorry, thank you.
Hey, you guys need a break. Why don't you come back at